Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. Apparently, an attempted intervention happened today as operatives try to convince generals that what they're doing is not going to work. But did they listen? Governments around the world are on their last legs. How does this affect the financial system? And what to expect over the next few months? Plus, we have 3 of your videos in Connect with Kim. All right, so here is Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hi, Kim.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Is it a happy Friday? What's going on?
It depends on who you are.
Okay, that's fair.
It's an okay Friday for us. As we watch what's going on out there in the world, it's kind of funny, actually. Some of the things that are going on is we are getting more and more calls from operatives wanting to know the true story, what's really happening. Are we going to be able to cash in these pallets of cash? And then, we tell them the truth. They go back and check. And, so this has been happening more and more. So that's a positive.
Okay.
The other thing that came out of that is the Langley Five is still running around. I call them Langley Five, your 5-star generals, guys. And they are still running around trying to get money from somewhere and revive old systems, which is not working. They also told the governments, plural, because they are more than just American. They have told them all to wait until Monday, which has caused mass panic in the Treasury Department and respective central banks. So much so, China actually has not been able to meet its obligations to Russia. They're flat broke. They do have a lot of government-owned corporations, but it's not enough to pay the bills at this point. We don't know if the country, unfortunately, is going to still have oil and gas. That depends on what the Russians decide to do. They're kind of tired of footing the bill for everything and everyone, and we'll see what happens there. Of course, I received the bill, for the government shutdown, which I rejected. They keep sending me bills like I'm going to pay somebody else's bill. I'm not sure. I didn't order that. So, and that's one thing that, is really important for the deep state to understand. They get angry with me for what they call blocking, but yet they're still not willing to take an order, from me. So if you don't order something, why are you paying for it? Like, it makes no sense, Right. So this is a continuous cycle. There's been some arguments and some, disagreements and those types of things over the last few days. But honestly, they're just going to keep going. There was even an intervention this morning as the operatives kind of gather, and compare notes and information with each other about what's really going on. They tried to talk to Langley Five and say, look, we don't have this anymore. You don't have that anymore. These, we can't keep going like this and setting up all this stuff and then nothing happens. They're the ones that are told to set up arms deals, for the war that's potentially erupting, their world war they ordered. And, they're the ones that set up financial transactions based on an influx of money they're expecting. They're the ones that, have to keep everything alive in the political sector. And it's just all falling apart. I mean, you can see it in mainstream media now. You can see it in the alleged presidential debates and elections. And, everybody's kind of, it's all stalled out. Corporations aren't getting their kickbacks. So they're not, funding presidential campaigns anymore because that seat doesn't mean anything for them because they're still not getting the laws passed that they need in order to introduce, for example, new technologies and those types of things, into the marketplace. Free customs, no customs, all of those are perks that the big corporates would get from governments. And that's why they were big contributors to campaigns, to presidential campaigns and other political campaigns. And what hasn't trickled out into the world of Congress and politicians and Dumas and parliaments worldwide is that there's going to be no money. So again, today is one of those days. I always keep a little bit of hope, that some smart person somewhere will walk away from those that are unwilling to see the forest through the trees, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So I'm still going to stick with the same prediction. They'll limp along through November. They'll go on holiday break, come back in January, and I don't know how many of them are going to be around. So, have jobs, have money, buildings, So, I mean, if you've ever wanted to own, say, a Washington Monument or something like that, you might be able to get one on fire sale. Yeah, I know. Anybody want the Library of Congress? Library of Congress, anyone?
I feel like all that stuff's so cursed and stuff. I wouldn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
It might be fun to rummage through the basement of the Library of Congress. There's a lot of interesting documents and other stuff in there that doesn't hit the media, and it doesn't actually hit, let's just say it's all behind the scenes stuff. You used to have a level 23 clearance to get in there, to see all that stuff. And so it might be fun. I mean, not like we can't, I can't rummage through some other stuff, but that might be fun. Yeah. It's just going nowhere. It's just absolutely going nowhere. No matter how many people that are known for being worldwide strategists, political strategists, economic strategists, try to get it through their thick head, they just do not listen. Mm-hmm. They can't hear it. They start talking about days of old. This is what they did after their intervention. Days of old, things that they believe that they actually accomplished by themselves, which is not true. They had help. And, telling everybody why they're so wonderful. I know.
Wow. There's such a disconnect between that and, I don't
reality?
know. Yeah. They're obviously not happy with the way things are going now, so they're getting out, going down memory lane to, I don't know. It's just so weird. Like everything's falling apart around them, and I don't know. It's just.
I know.
It's disconnected for sure.
Well, I mean, how long can it go on when you can't meet your obligations to your trade partners? How long do corporations that provide military equipment, per se, how long can they hold on without getting, any payment? Mm-hmm. I mean, normally the government takes forever to pay those obligations anywhere between 6 months to a year. But what's going to happen when they don't pay those bills?
Right.
Default on their balance sheet, is Boeing going to go under? Airlines aren't getting their kickbacks, media, Boeing, Airbus, and either, they still haven't gotten their COVID pay and that kind of stuff. So I can only assume they're not buying any new aircraft based on this, or very little. I mean, our little plane ticket fees, have gone up quite a bit, but it's still not enough.
Sure.
How many airlines are going to go out of business soon? I mean, I am a strategist, and I'm watching this all happen in real time. And truth be told, I'm a little bit sad about it, that it's going to be a hard thump for planet Earth. Not a soft landing. But there's nothing I can do about it at this point. I've given up. I've wasted enough air and enough breath, and we'll just pick up, operatives and run with it, and give them contracts for positive things.
Right. Do you feel, Kim, that there's a sizable amount of operatives that are willing to work with us?
Yeah. Hundreds, if not thousands worldwide. at this point.
Right.
But, they need to get paid. So if they've got an opportunity to get paid on the one side or an opportunity to get paid over here, he who pays first wins. And that's the game that we're playing right now. And I know that. For them, but also for all of you. And the majority of my days are spent, doing kind of cleanup stuff. And, as we go through transitions, it does affect computers. It does affect our financial system. Restructuring, you've got to think about all the different markets too that have to be restructured. So, you have items that are listed on there. All that has to be restructured. Real pricing has to be implemented. What are the implications to companies and countries? We have to take a look at those things. What would be the implications to you, the consumer, which is more my concern because everything trickles down to us. So, there's going to be a lot of supply chain. That's what I've been going through a lot of too, is all the different supply chains. So I'm looking at everything that I'm watching and estimating dates as to when I think that the corporation or corporations that provide us with X, Y, or Z, as globally, when I believe they will fail without government assistance or deep state assistance. I can see the military is broke, therefore they're not buying a lot of, heavy equipment, so to speak, and that's going to put the military industrial complex worldwide probably out of business when they can't pay. It's, you got to look at all the repercussions to everything, and like I said, I pretty much resolved to the fact that they will wait. The governments will wait as long as the deep state tells them to wait. At this rate, they'll still be waiting 50 years from now.
It's incredible.
So, and that's okay. But there's nothing I can do about it. At this point,
Right.
I've talked to other countries. It's not just the United States. I mean, I've talked to the South Africans till I'm blue in the face. I've talked to the Iraqis. I've talked to the, a couple of other countries in the Middle East. I'll just leave it at that. I've had conversations with the Saudis. Mm-hmm. They're still living in a fantasy that they're going to be able to get some money within the next 2 weeks. And this is coming from, they are Rothschild, if you don't know. The Saudi royal family is not the original royal family of that country. That's actually a Rothschild installed royal family, mm-hmm. as it is in other countries. They have basically made a war zone of the northern half of the African continent, back when the Jesuits were still at play here. And then the Russians came in, as you know, when China lost face on the continent, made a lot of promises and can't deliver either. They'll be able to fulfill some of those trade agreements and those types of things, I'm sure. But it's a mess now. Now you've got all the warlords on the continent there beating their drums, and people are getting hurt. Mm-hmm. These people, are tied to and can be influenced by a group of operatives. It's all about your safety. It's, but right now they're just being told to wait. So therefore they're telling them to wait. Then they get angrier and then there's more problems. So, that's pretty much what's happening around the world. Governments go broke, militaries are going broke, nobody's buying anything. There's a still chatter about them trying to start wars with fake pallets of super notes, which will always be cashable tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes in this story. And I wish I had better news. But, unfortunately, there are things that you just got to let it happen. It's going to happen. You have to let it happen. Mm-hmm. So, and there's nothing I can do. I can't talk any sense into any of these people.
Well, what would be the next move then on our part to work with these operatives? Are we waiting for them to, we're still giving out information. I know you said they're contacting you. So are we waiting for that information to circulate before we can start, actually form a contract with some of these operatives and get things going the right way?
No, you can't. I can't even, I'm having conversations with them because, when they are new ones or whomever is calling, they do have a lot of influence in military and government and whatnot. So if that was to get out throughout the political sector in every single country, because these people are all together. I know there's a fallacy like the CIA is fighting the, SVR in Russia or something like that, but that's actually a joke because it's not true. They all work together. So word is getting out that, none of this is happening. Really what it's going to take at this point is information, some knowledge with proof behind it, things they can go verify. And in addition to that, money.
Which we have, right? So what would have to happen in order for them to get money from us to do the work that we need them to do?
Well, it would be, I could do it in 5 seconds through the Treasury Department, but that's not an option.
Okay.
So I've got to complete a few things in order to, and I know someone had asked this question too, and I just haven't gotten to it, and for Connect with Kim, but quantum systems are the base platform. A quantum system is a base platform behind which all things electronic exist on this planet and other planets as well. We are not adept enough as a society to operate your section of the quantum system yourself at this moment. In the future, and I'm talking about the future, probably not in the next couple of years, you'll be able to do these things yourself, and we'll have to educate people on how to do this, and it's going to be a whole process. Now, there are and will remain until we as a society grow up, limiters, so to speak. You can't just, go willy-nilly kind of thing. But eventually you will learn the way to how to operate a true quantum system. Not this, IBM's got one or, those kind of things. So your account, as I've said, lives in density 1 of computers. That's where your account is. And there are 9 sequences. If you're a computer person, you'll know them as like SQL and old batching and all of that used to have to take place based on its connection in the 3rd density, which is your bank's back office. And that it would have to go through once it hits density 1. And so we're still seeing a little bit of stuff, which is not anything from the NSA or governments or Langley 5 or Rothschild or any of those people. It's all remnants that were left here by my predecessor. So, and so probably 3, 2, and 1 of density 1. So the different planes, the last 3 sequences is what I'm seeing right now. So we've made it very far. I would say, with the amount of hours and everything that we put in, I'm hoping, that can all be cleared up soon. So other than that, that's about the only thing. Now, I want you to keep in mind that for currency, money, has existed on this planet in many different forms for well over for centuries, millennia. They coins with holes in Asia. People would wear them around. The Templars also traded in receipts. You could drop your gold off in your place one, like if you were going on a ship and you were traveling, this is long before air travel, then you could pick up that same amount of gold on the other end without having to carry it with you. Mm-hmm. So that's a form of money. And then eventually it turned into what we see today, which are papers, bonds, derivatives, and all those are different forms of money, money 4, money 3. So we've developed different ways of trading. And eventually in 1978, we started moving forward into the digital age in computers. Now, since the inception of not only the financial system, telecommunications, and all of these types of things, money has never moved out of the alpha system, which is the system that I run, directly to a human being ever. Mm. So ever in the history. So let's just take, for example, from, the time that money was created. There's a lot of stuff that's taken place in the last couple of millennia, and all of that was done by my predecessor. It wasn't done by the deep state. It wasn't done by crooked bankers. And sure, we still have all those people. But again, they're trying to gather the troops, rally the troops, tell everybody how important they are. And none of those people will actually talk to us. So we had to actually find another way to do this without asking a human, without involving governments, without doing all of this stuff. And I feel like everything happens at the right time. I wish there was a way to say, hey, source, when is this, and then of course, there's that whole thing. It's not like you can go there and say, can you take care of all of this for me? Just like people do with me. Kim, can you take care of all of this for me? That would be great. Call me when you're done. Thanks in advance. If all of you, were astute enough and trainable enough, and we could have education classes on how to run quantum AI and how to connect to quantum AI, I wouldn't be having this problem, and I wouldn't be having this conversation. But right now, I don't have that. And even the people that are listening that could possibly learn, that's a very small amount of the population. So what do I do, with everybody else? Everybody else has got to eat and got to live. So it's a process.
Yeah.
It's been a roller coaster. It's been a ride, and it's been a process. So every time I tell you this has changed, that comes with a whole set of all of those things I whiteboarded out for you, whether it's keystones and all that. That's in computers as well. And you also got to remember we're traveling through densities with the same system. Occasionally we'll hit some kickback from, some remnant, some box in somewhere, that kicks something out. So I wish I could speed it up. And one day, when you are able to access the system, you'll all look at me and then you'll understand. Mm-hmm. But for now, I'm doing the best I can. So, and that's kind of the world situation report for Friday. I mean, I wish I had better news. I wish I had some positive news to give you, but it's ending rapidly.
What should we be doing now, Kim? What can we do? I'm obviously watching this fall apart, and I know a lot of people are going to feel a little bit helpless in all this. So what would be your recommendation and what people can do right now?
Well, number one, remain calm. Start looking at places, I think it'll be a little longer before you'll see some of the major corporations disappear, the ones that are mostly dependent on government funding. But if you want to travel somewhere, go, because we don't know how long it's going to be before you're having to row a canoe, to get across the pond. We don't
It's a long
know.
trip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Companies like Lockheed, Boeing, and all, and so on and so forth, Airbus, and they take a while when you order a new plane to produce said plane.
Sure.
So, it's going to be some time. Well, maybe we can pick up some C-130s or something like that from the military in a fire sale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Langley 5 is going to need some money to keep going, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we'll make it work. Mainly don't panic. Make sure that your family has enough food, if they start retaliating in that aspect. If you have extra storage, store up a little bit, it wouldn't hurt. If you have retirement or any kind of money or anything in the stock market, I think it would be, sometime between now and January, you might want to consider, just putting that in a regular money market account or a CD or something for a little while, because we don't know what's going to happen there. They still have the ability to talk, and talking is what moves the markets.
Mm-hmm.
So are they going to talk some more? We don't know that, but it's not going to hurt, if you have an investment, to kind of put it in something safer, for a little while, and just wait out the storm.
Mm-hmm.
It might not even be needed. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe everything will just keep floating. Who knows? But that's my advice on that. If you're asking my opinion, I have given you an opinion. I'm not trying to give you investment advice or anything like that, but that's an opinion if you want to be super safe and protect yourself. For people that receive government pensions, and that's what you rely upon, we can probably float that out, through different systems for a little while until we can get essentials out. And I know people are probably concerned about that. Mm-hmm. Banks are in a tough spot too, because, they're cashing checks on IOUs being given to them by the Treasury Department. So the Treasury Department has an enormous amount of IOUs to the banks, and that's how they're managing to cover pensions and postal workers, and because the banks are considering that a debt from the United States government, which is an asset on the bank side, even though the liquidity is just disappearing everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is worldwide. This is not just in the United States. So they've been robbing Peter to pay Paul for quite a long time now. So where do we go from here? The insurance companies will probably go broke. As you know, Blue Cross Blue Shield, all of the big names around the world, wherever you are predominantly paid. They're paid 50% by the state or province and 50% on a national level. Other countries that have NHS, probably need to, if you work there, consider trying to move into the private sector if that is allowed. You won't have the government to interfere with you, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's not there. Yeah, can't do much.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people can't afford private insurance. It's very expensive in some countries. But, assurance will be out eventually, but until then, maybe we can come up with some kind of stopgap. So and you're talking, months and, in some cases, maybe a year or more before you start seeing corporations and those types of things. The markets possibly earlier. So, yeah, it's going to get bumpy, kids.
Yeah.
But hang in there. Hopefully I'll have some more information, on Monday as to what. Nothing will transpire over the weekend. On Monday, there'll still be no money. And then I'll be telling you they told them that it would come on Wednesday and then next Friday and then a week from next Friday. And so, until we go through November.
It's like Groundhog Day right now.
It is like Groundhog Day.
That's what I feel like.
It is like Groundhog Day. But the good news is that none of their programs are, you still see the attempts to start war and that kind of thing. And like I said, they've made quite a mess of the northern section of the African continent. So, I don't see it going anywhere. I mean, it's just bankrupt, all of them bankrupt. Might be, maybe the Russians have a little bit of money, but everybody else is pretty much broke. Yeah. So hang on to your hats. It's sad. We tried. I keep trying. I keep talking. I keep answering people's questions. I keep trying, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point. And quite frankly, we're all frustrated. So there's not one operative person I've spoken to directly that is not frustrated at this moment in time. Yeah. They don't always voice those opinions, there's a rank and file, that kind of thing. But there's no one that's, and they're all being lied to. I mean, I've even talked to Russian operatives and they're, they're moving $150 billion to China. I'm like, to fund the Ukraine war, stop. I'm like, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. It's those fake servers and smoke and mirrors, and turns out that's exactly what it was. It's just to keep the operatives going. It's just to keep everybody moving. That's it. By keep going, I mean, a promise. Oh, look, dangling carrot. Here, you've got $500 million in this account right here. Look at this computer screen printout that you've got. Isn't that lovely? You can't access it today, though. Maybe Friday.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's no way this whole thing is going to sustain itself. So it would have been nice for them and easier for them if Langley, the 5 stars, would have come to the party. Now, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And unfortunately, what also happens is you can bump off the current crew, so to speak, have them depart on the source train. But then another group, whoever was their next in command steps up, we're in charge now. And then it just keeps going and going and going and going and going until you run out of people.
Yeah, so what's the point? Yeah.
Remember generals that, in planes that don't land and submarines that don't dock and, over and over and over again, and they just can't seem to understand. Right now they're bringing sporks to a gunfight. You remember sporks from school?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they've got
but
plastic
not good
sporks.
In a gunfight.
Yeah, they're bringing plastic sporks to a gunfight.
Yeah.
So, it's fine. Let them take it all. They are not just kind of going over the cliff now. I mean, pretty much this is it. I mean, they're now just single filing over the, jumping off. So, and that's the World Situation Report for Friday.
All right,
maybe you have some good questions, Sunny. Maybe that'll be happy.
We've got some good questions, very thoughtful questions. But first, let's take this quick break, and then we'll come back with your videos.
Okay, great.
And on today's Real Talk, we're bringing back a former guest to share with us what he calls the quantum economy.
I've been bringing messages in from the angels about the new earth, and right now we're in the transformational phase of that. Right now, not in the future, but right now, we have 2 separate economies running parallel to each other in our reality or on our plane. One is the old one that's part of the matrix that is disintegrating. The other is the new quantum paradigm, or the new quantum economy, which is coming online. So we're actually in the middle of what we could call a reboot.
And now it's time for Connect with Kim. Our news team has selected 3 questions from our audience, and here is the first video.
John F. in North Central Florida, USA. Would it fit our agenda if unilaterally we would manifest that funding begins with third world countries being first before the USA, with the result being that many refugees and expats are encouraged to return to their homeland, to the country of their birth?
Now, that's kind of an interesting question, Kim. So when funding does happen, how does that roll out? Does that make sense to you as far as doing third world countries first?
It did make sense to me. Well, if you're talking about people and nations, I would say it doesn't really matter in what order this all happens. I mean, it should all happen almost simultaneously to some degree. It'll take time for that to trickle down into the average everyday person, on the street. Meaning, obviously all of you are aware, and then there's projects, and then there's care, and then there's all these things. And it'll take time, for the word to get out that something else is happening. To say, I haven't thought of this, because what happens is, for example, you have very intelligent people, engineers, architects, in all types of countries, all ranks, whatever. That's their geopolitical system. They try to say it's a third world country. So we'll use that term, although I don't believe in it. And the ones that can afford it, go to university in other countries, whether it be, Australia, or they go to Europe or UK or, US or, wherever. And they get riddled with student loan debt, financial aid. I mean, there are people that do have a lot of money, I guess, that send their kids and can afford to pay cash, but most of people get riddled with, student loan and that kind of thing. And it's very hard to return back to their, country, because how do you pay that bill? Right. And then work there, for a much lower wage?
Right.
So we've talked about programs. For example, we've discussed a revision on universities and making universities available in every country. So, people hear of the Ivy League schools. I'm not saying that I'm a fan of one way or the other, but what if there was an MIT in every country? What if it was tied to a research and development center that funded the education? So it could be self-sustainable. The teachers would make more money, plus you'd have hands-on experience in whatever field you were going into. Now imagine if we put a field messenger office for all you journalism students, there as well. So the possibilities are endless on how we structure and change our world as a society from an educational level to hopefully return good paying jobs in other countries. We've also had discussions in the past about what if we were to do, if you graduated, say you are an American and you graduated from an American college and you're now about $200,000 to $250,000 in student loan debt, which is what the average student ends up with. Imagine if you could go work for 6 months and train people in a clinic in, say, the Banana Republic. I'm not going to name a country, the Banana Republic. And then for working there for 6 months, you have no more student loans. You get paid a salary to stay there. I mean, doesn't that kind of make sense? That way, you're at least getting some triage training and some other things in different remote areas of the world, and you're helping people and you're helping yourself. And it wouldn't just be for newly graduated students. This is for doctors that have been doctors for 10 years, 20 years. Think about it. These are programs that we would think about as far as, and I was just taking the medical industry as an example, but these are programs that we've thought of to try to solve this situation. Revamping, revising systems in totality. Even in our country, people don't want to farm anymore. They don't want to do these things. They're not getting any help very minimal help from the farm loan people. They've been promised drought payments, which they never, from the government, and they never arrive. It's tough. And then, of course, suppliers, they're paying, farmers in, for example, Mexico, like $1 a day, $5 a day, like nothing. Same thing in Honduras and other areas where we import our food from. And then they sell it here for top dollar, plus transportation costs and so on and so forth. But it's not that much. We're paying, with seeds and everything and water and the whole thing. And, Mexico, we're paying $2 or something in the United States right now for like an avocado, as an example.
I know, I saw that, yeah.
On average, depending on where you are and what time of year it is, of course. But, look what they're doing to the people over there. Yeah. In a lot of ways, it's a shame because I look at, for example, the United States and this country was built, I'm talking centuries, on manufacturing, Americans banding together and supporting one another and small businesses and farming, our farmers were looked at as heroes because they were, providing all the food, and we've lost it. I don't know how many other countries in the world have also lost it, but, we used to have, it used to be different. I mean, even when I was a kid, I remember things were different. I could read actually all the words on the back of my packaging at the store.
I know, that's bad.
Milk was milk.
Yeah.
It wasn't fortified and didn't have all that stuff in it. And, we're actually the worst country in the world for that. I don't know if you know that. You could buy the same product from the same manufacturer in another country, and it has none of the stuff that we have in it here. Yep. So, and to answer your question, yes, it's possible. I wouldn't say it matters where you start. I think it only matters what you do. And then, of course, encouraging students and young professionals. The other thing is we have a lot of university programs do not actually result in a job, a good paying job. And not to say that the degree itself, in the world of normal land doesn't mean anything, but it's not a career. Why are we doing that? It's kind of strange. So things have to change. To answer your question, and I agree with you, and those are some possible solutions we have considered, for funding.
Okay, here's our next video.
G'day, Jared here from Byron Bay, live by the fire. If the current financial markets weren't manipulated, what would the current price of gold and silver be? And as we move to the new Kim's financial system, how will the price of gold and silver be determined and valued?
Gold and silver. How much is it actually worth?
I know. Honestly, we have an abundance of gold and silver on this planet. It is not in short supply. And remember, pricing allegedly is based on supply and demand.
Sure.
What is a problem with both is that all the refineries are actually owned and the hallmarking companies are actually owned and run by the deep state.
Mm-hmm.
So to get that gold refined and, to turn it into, that pretty necklace or gold bar or whatever you want to do, is where the money lies. That's where a lot of it. Truth be told, the price of gold has been at about what was at many, many years ago, $35 forever. And it was a standard because everybody was on the gold standard, $35 an ounce, that is. So, and then, probably 10, 15 years ago, it went up to about $600, $700 for no apparent reason. You don't have a shortage
doing that.
of it. So to answer your question, what is it actually really worth? Pennies, maybe $1
per ounce again.
Yeah, maybe that. But really, and I use this analogy because you have to understand how the markets actually function. I know people would think, well, the price of gold would be a lot higher. But if there was not all of these restrictions on mining, Bureau of Land Management or whatever you have in your country, ridiculous contracts with the United Nations, then it went over to the Chinese, and then it went over to the Russians, and now we're playing this whole game. It was the Americans, Anglo-American company you've heard of if you're in Africa. If it wasn't for all of these people creating a pinch points, so to speak, or exclusivity agreements where there are minerals in the ground, then, that's when the price of gold started going up ridiculously, and you notice it kind of corresponded, with the non-compete plan in 1975 when it was rewritten. Hitler's plan was rewritten by Bush. So, to answer your question, how much is a bar of gold worth to you if you're starving in the middle of the desert?
That's very true.
I mean, I know African tribes where they give them 20% of the gold to mine on their land, and they cannot sell it. They are prohibited from selling it. So what do you do with it? Yeah, they give them 20%, but then they can't put it in a bank. They can't sell it. They can't do anything. They can't monetize it in any way, shape, or form. So they've just been stockpiling it for years. I've seen it.
Wow.
And so they, I've seen people sharpening knives and stuff on gold bars. They got nothing to, what are they going to do?
I don't know. Yeah. It's just such a weird, why would they agree to that? I mean, I know you don't, that's rhetorical, really.
Yeah. I would probably say that there are many people that made these agreements, the DuPont family, the Bush family, Oppenheimer, De Beers, and, whether it's diamonds or gold or silver or whatever it is, that made these deals long time ago. And of course, they never adhere to their word, in any way. Take Mali as an example. France had been recently kicked out of Mali. And
What's
they believed Mali is a country, M-A-L-I.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the name or something. I was like, Mali. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And, there were French troops in there for a long time and, they've all been kicked out, and this kind of, the Jesuits on the one side, Rothschild's on the other. Rothschild is France. France is Rothschild.
Okay.
But they've been getting, France has been getting free uranium mining, and They're mining uranium for free and taking it back to France for nuclear power for decades.
Okay.
Decades. Now, they were promised things like schools and, for free. They would build buildings and housing and all kinds of stuff in exchange for the uranium, and nothing ever happened. Nothing. And so, somebody else comes in with a new face, and promises them the same thing and whatnot. And then there's another new face and another new face, and years and years and decades pass, of war and uprisings and all the things that are happening there right now. And nobody ever gets anywhere. They never give them money.
Yeah.
They're the codependent people. They want a codependent world. That's the only way they have power. And we're looking to do the opposite. So I hope that answers your question about gold and silver. What is it really worth?
Well, yeah, and there was a second part of the question, though, that was about how that then relates to the Kim's financial system. Because if gold is only really worth a few pennies or whatever, because we are moving to, at least for the time being, gold-backed financial system, right?
Yeah, for the time being. Now, this kind of gets a little tricky.
Yeah.
So we know that gold is a hyperconductor for crystalline energy or source energy. That's what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why in the past gold was used to back the financial system is because they had put a parasitic overlay on the veins of gold and earth.
Right.
That parasitic overlay is what actually fed money into the system, because it would take that crystalline energy, convert it into something dark, which basically cursed your monetary system for a long time, and then convert it eventually all down all the planes of existence until it reached you, as in the form of money as you know it, because money is energy. Energy is money. So as it relates to the way it works now, yes, we've chosen to do the same thing, but we're not really limited by the same resources as an artificial parasitic overlay is. Because we don't have that anymore. So as far as on an energetic level and in a quantum level, the energy of money is now clean. Now, as it relates to the gold backing, you got to remember, you can't upset the apple cart in one day anyway.
Sure.
Gold has so many medicinal uses and all kinds of stuff. Putting it in a bar and sticking it in a bank in Switzerland somewhere is not a thing.
The worst use for it.
Yeah, that's a bad use for it. And once the world starts to understand it, then we can look at, do we really need it as support for the financial system? We probably don't. But for now, it'll probably have a similar price to what it has today. We'll probably take an average is what I've been looking at for the last 5 years and tried to figure it out. And then just setting a standard so that countries can trade with other countries. It's not a government thing anymore. It's your currencies, because the ratio has to be correct. And then obviously the supply of money has to meet the demand for money.
Yes.
So, there'll probably be a standard. There's no fluctuations. Depending if the markets burn out, are they going to still have the second London fix? Are they still going to do those things? Are we still going to have a commodities futures market? I think you can clock it with an egg timer without BlackRock getting supported, because that is BlackRock's trading house, if you don't know, getting supported by the governments, plural.
Okay, well, let's move on to our final question, which is about currency. So on the same.
Hi, Kim and K team. Quick question around currencies. Are we going to see wild swings as we move over to the new algorithm and currencies being backed by gold and local production contracts? Or is it going to be a more seamless shift over to the new system? And how do people and businesses best prepare for those changes that are coming And sort of over what time span do you think those changes will happen? Thank you very much.
A lot of follow-up questions there. I'll just let you take it. Currency.
Well, everything in the world right now is programmed. What I mean by everything, I mean your Apple Pay, your business, your swiping your cards and those types of things is all kind of set up for the current currencies that are in circulation. When it comes to physical cash, we're going to need to find a new way to print it, which we can do. And the system will accept it because why? Because I control that. I can create my own magnetic ink. I don't need anybody's help, and in governments and treasuries and all those people. And eventually will we get to the point to where we learn how to trade amongst one another in a different way? I think so. But you're talking years down the road. I think for right now, what you can expect is currencies to stay the same. There'll be it'll be a gold-backed system. It'll be based on production in those your respective country in that currency. I think we're going to stop in probably next year the dollar, where everybody has to trade commodities worldwide in the dollar and all of that. And there'll be adjustments to the banking system to where this is what we're working on too. Some adjustments so that you can actually have an exchange directly with the repository. So in other words, if you are from Germany and you're traveling to Brazil, you don't have to pay 20% extra on your hotel bill to exchange your currency out and that kind of stuff. So we'll start to work on that in other countries. We currently exchanges are done not through banks like that, current rates. It looks like an ATM machine. You put in your currency and you get the other one out. I mean, we'll probably make those more readily available. We can drop them in the middle of nowhere, even if there's no power and electricity, because we can do that with neutrino energy. We can do that with solar in some cases. We can do it, well, that is solar energy. It's just a different form of it. So that we can get the world, running in the right way and people access to what they need worldwide. So I think you're going to see changes for the better and not the worse, but I will say, it could get bumpy for a couple months here. So if you are providing, for example, plane parts to, specialty parts to Boeing or one of these places, I don't know how many parts they're going to be ordering anytime soon, right. In a few months, so probably 6-8 months, but the world could be a different place by then. So,
sure.
I'm just kind of moving along with the bouncing ball and what people decide to do. So.
Okay. All right. Well, if you guys want to submit a question for Kim, you need to send a video of you on camera. Limit your questions to 30 seconds or less. And if you want to submit that video, please do so through the United Network News website. Go under the tab, Become a Field Messenger. Our news team, along with Kim, will select a few questions to answer at the end of each newscast. We had a lot of financial kind of questions today. That was kind of interesting. It's like, I don't know if you planned that or not.
I didn't actually.
You didn't,
but
they're good ones though. They were good.
I know. Well, it's important to understand, people, big change causes sometimes fear.
Yeah.
And, the one thing I know is that everything so far has been timed perfectly. There hasn't been anything that's a mistake so far. If I had done things sooner, where would we be? Where would you be? I don't know. Could we have perpetuated things longer for the deep state? Possibly. I say source makes me look smart, and I seriously mean it. So, but I am looking forward to a changing world. And I've been talking to some very interesting people as well, who actually are scientists, and they are industry builders, supply chain makers. They know how to get this stuff done. And, I am sure based on plans and things I've seen some of the people I've talked to do before, I think it'll be very easy to set up supply chains. They just might not look like the ones you currently have.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. I'm kind of disappointed in what's happening, but
I know.
maybe that's just the way it's supposed to be.
I mean, yeah. I mean, starting from scratch, essentially, I mean, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? But
you don't know, but for everything that I've seen in the past, meaning, from the day I started working, really seriously working on changing the quantum systems interfacing, because at the time there was an Omega 1, Omega 2, and a bazillion other AIs and all of this stuff, and the matrices and how they all worked. And from the day I started doing that, I would say that there is nothing we were able to keep. Nothing.
yeah.
So, we had to create all new systems. We had to create all new things. We had to create new interfaces and patches and portals and all kinds of different stuff to even get to the point where we are today. If that is indicative of where we're going as a society, then we're probably going to have to create all new things.
So you're saying there's a pattern here, Kim.
I am seeing a pattern, actually. So maybe that's why they're terminating their own selves. It's like, have you ever seen a scorpion, Miss Sunny?
In person, no, and I hope to never have that experience.
Well, I lived in the Southwest for a while.
Yeah.
And in the desert. And so when, even though I lived in the city, when there was a construction site or something nearby, your home, or you lived further on the outskirts of town, you would occasionally have scorpions that would wander into your property and in your house.
Sure.
So I'm not very good at, doing anything to bugs, and you don't really want to touch those. It's hard to put them in like a little cup and kind of scoot them out the door,
Yeah.
And then you've got pets, and so you're concerned about that. And so a friend of mine told me that if you take a drop of tequila and you drop it on the scorpion, it will actually sting itself to death. This is a true story. I've tried it. I've done it. It works.
Are you saying the deep state is stinging itself to death?
I am, actually.
Yeah. Well,
I think I think they are, actually. In all of its arms and legs, too. And you consider that to be governments. And, people have been complaining for years about like the UN and the UN Security Council and, of course, the World Health Organization, and all those people. Maybe we just let them do it. Maybe we just put that drop of tequila there and just let them spin, because that's what we've done, essentially.
Yeah. It's true.
What is the alt media going to talk about when all that goes away? When it's done spinning around in circles? Here's a funny story for you to end your Friday. I lived in a house with very high vaulted ceilings, and I was laying on the sofa watching TV, and I happened to stretch, and I looked up at the ceiling, and there's a scorpion on the ceiling, Miss Sunny. So I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, now how am I going to do this? So I actually went to the department store, and I purchased a super soaker gun and filled it with tequila and shot the scorpion.
I'm picturing, sorry for the noise, I'm picturing this big, I don't know, super soaker thing, and you pointing this at the ceiling.
Remember the super soaker water guns? I don't know. They still have them. You have kids. Okay. Yeah, just one of those. I filled it with tequila and shot the scorpion.
Oh
worked.
My gosh. And it worked.
Yeah, it worked. Fell to the ground, spun around, stung itself to death, and that was the end of the scorpion.
And then your whole house smelled like a bar for a few days.
It did, actually.
I bet it did.
There was some air freshener that happened and, whatnot. But It wasn't that bad. I didn't have to spray the whole ceiling or anything, but yeah, but it worked. So anyway, funny story for you. Anyway, to end the sad news broadcast, I guess.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just meant to be. It's the same thing here. We got to create something new, and from every aspect. I do believe that that's the only way we're going to survive.
I do too. There's something comforting to me about doing it alone, quite frankly, because I don't trust them at all.
Well, yeah, then people are going to complain about, people love to complain, especially like who are you going to complain about now? You can't complain about government people and all that. Well, now what are you going to talk about?
Yeah, it's true.
I know. So it'll probably be us. They'll complain that we did something, that I gave out the wrong denomination of bills, or something.
Right.
I was expecting hundreds and you gave me 20s. Why?
I know.
Well, Miss Sunny, have a nice weekend. And now if you ever encounter a scorpion anywhere, now you know what to do.
Now I know what to do.
Head straight to the liquor store.
Aye, Captain. I got it.
All right.
Thanks, Kim.
Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.